Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Mick Alphanine. So we're going to start off with a little bit of Algorand news, and then we're going to transition into some XRP news. I think this is going to be a good video today. So we're here on techcrunch.com. Algorand is working with Flex ID. This is a company in Zimbabwe. And let's just read this a little bit here. It says, much of the world's attention around blockchain is on the highs and lows of cryptocurrency values. Startups like Flex ID remind us that distributed ledger technology has the potential to play other roles. Utility. Algorand has so much utility, including offering trusted records of identities without the need for a centralized authority. That's very important. That's very, very good. What Algorand is doing in Africa is absolutely amazing. At the rapid pace that they're moving, look how fast they're developing in Latin America, in Africa, Europe. They have their European accelerator program. Look at what they're doing in the United States and Florida. Algorand is doing an amazing job. Now, here's the thing about utility and the utility era that is about to come in very soon. If people like the prices that went up from speculation, you're not going to believe, in my humble opinion, it's going to blow your mind, the prices you're going to see when utility kicks in. Now, why do I say that? I say that because of not only all the legacy system money that's on the side that stands to come into crypto, not just that, but when you have utility, so let's go over some utility coins and why that would mean a higher price for them, like Algorand, XRP. Let's even throw one in that's not a bank coin, okay? VeChain. You throw VeChain in there. They're constantly being used. So that's a high volume. They're being used every day. And with crypto, you can utilize crypto all day, all year. It never shuts off. It's not like a stock market or, so there's a constant high volume, and the values are going to be much higher than what's flowing across them right now. That's just logical, right? So if you have values of $20, let's just take something low, $20, $100 constantly flowing across them. Now, let's go a little bit higher. Let's say payroll, because Algorand has payroll. They're building on payroll infrastructures. They're building on Algorand right now. You have payroll infrastructures. We went over an article on this about Ripple maybe about a month ago. So people are building payroll infrastructures on Ripple, XRPL. That's a very high amount of money constantly flowing across those particular blockchains. That's only going to expand into the future, which means what? That means that price can't stay at 40 cents. It can't stay at 43 cents. It's going to rise just based off the logic and the utility of that particular protocol. That's why this is good. And I believe, and I respect Algorand for this reason, I believe why they're expanding to so many regions. They understand how to make money. Now, don't get me wrong. Algo Foundation is a nonprofit, but you have Algorand, right? And you have a lot of entities that are for-profits that are building on Algorand. And so, so they have a vested interest to bring in some capital. Not only that, Algorand respects their algo holders. They understand, unlike a lot of other bank coins, by the way, they don't want to leave their algo holders, their initial investors, behind. They want to show them respect. They allow them to participate in governance. And another way you show them respect is to make sure that you don't sideline your native protocol, like some bank coins seem to have done, right? So they don't do that. They highlight their native protocol, Algo, and they ensure that in the future, as long as people are building on it and utilizing it, that the price will go up. Don't forget their staking capabilities as well. So you have all of this going on Algorand, and it's going really, really good. And so the future continues to look extremely bright on Algorand. This is just one more, and they're going to be using, in my humble opinion, Algorand as like a identity protocol, traceability protocol, I believe more and more into the future. If you remember, and one of the heads at Algorand actually said this on the panel at, was it the World Economic Forum, or maybe it was a Bank of International Settlements forum they had about a month ago. But one of the heads even said but put forth the use case of traceability when they use Algorand to track the, the redacted thing that was happening down in Latin America. So I see that type of use only expanding into the future. All right, it's a good way to store data, have it immutable, always accessible, is decentralized. Anybody can tap into it. So things are looking really, really good, in my humble opinion, when it comes to Algorand. And as I said, we're just approaching the golden age of Algorand. We haven't even gotten deep into it yet. I expect bigger announcements coming later in the years, towards the middle of the summer, later this year. But we'll see about that. Just be a little bit patient. So now let's go into a little bit of XRP news here. So this here is from cryptoglobe.com. Head over there, check them out. They have some tremendous articles over there right now. Cryptoglobe.com. Okay. And this article is titled Ripple's Global Head of Institutional Markets talks about XRP power on-demand liquidity. I love it when they talk about on-demand liquidity because that is where that money is going to come from. When they're pooling their money into XRP, all of these banks, and that price of XRP starts steadily going up. And keep in mind, it doesn't matter whether they use a closed ecosystem or a public ecosystem, a private ecosystem or a public ecosystem. It doesn't make a difference because still it affects the price of XRP dramatically. Even if they take a large allotment of XRP off the market, it makes XRP more rare, and that theoretically would make that price explode. But even if they don't do that and they allow everybody to pool and stake their XRP all together, let's say they did something like that, without staking even, that price starts to go up. They must create a big enough liquidity pool where it solves a significant problem, which is liquidity crisis going into both extremes of a liquidity crisis, having too much, having too little. Ripple will act as a balancer. They have to, okay? They will act as a balancing mechanism for that and fill in the gaps anytime that there is a massive bank run, and those are going to continue to happen. Any massive bank runs in the system, they act as a gap filler so that you don't have these problems like what you saw with the collapse of a lot of these stable coins. They didn't have the liquidity. They had a bank run on them. People pulled out their money and they collapsed. But that doesn't happen. Let's say banks start to issue their own stable coins, which they have been doing. Like, let's say, for example, you had the oldest bank in Europe issue their stable coin on Stellar. Well, if you have a liquidity provider like XLM or XRP, and you have a bank run and everybody's pulling their money out, your stable coin doesn't have to collapse because you tap into that on-demand liquidity. You maintain your peg because you had that liquidity accessible on demand. That is very important. That is very, very key. So the Bank of England, and that member was saying how they were lambasting and calling out stable coins because they were not stable. That's not all stable coins. All stable coins are different. If you have a one-to-one peg stable coin, like I put in $1 and they hold $1, it's quite stable. Look at USDC as an example, right? Plus USDC has enough liquidity where they can fill in their gaps quite easily if there is a run on USDC. That's not the same with algorithmic stable coins. There is a difference. They don't differentiate. See, now you bring in Ripple, let's say, and I'm going to put this out there. You have Ripple working with hundreds of financial institutions. If they choose to issue their stable coins on Ripple, and I believe that they will, or the central bank digital currencies, pretty much the same thing. CBDC and stablecoin, pretty much the same thing. Just one is actually issued by the bank. That's it. And if the banks wanted to, they could just buy an allotment of stablecoins, issue their own stablecoins like the other bank did. Like I said, in Europe on Stellar, they could do that. But they don't have to worry about the collapsing and depegging of their particular stablecoin because Ripple will act as liquidity provider and bring that balance anytime they need it. So you have that normal capital. You have that normal capital flowing through XRP, which will make that price go up, right? But you also have, so you have, let me go back for a second. You have that normal capital flowing through XRP, which has a high value and a high volume because we're talking about money moving back and forth. This is big money from banks, constantly moving back and forth across the XRPL, theoretically, if everything goes according to plan. But not only that, that's not the only thing that affects that price. What also affects that price is the life preserver that is the liquidity hub, on-demand liquidity, which has all this money pooled into it, okay, as a safeguard so that, yeah, you don't have to pre-fund accounts, but also it acts as a liquidity life preserver for anything that might happen with their stable coins. And I believe that they're going to want to issue stable coins. This is one of the reasons why I believe also they've been kicking stable coins while they're down. They were waiting on it. They can kick these stable coins while they're down, kicking them so that then the banks can come in later and say, hey, we have some stable coins. I mean, I don't know why people still trust the banks, but a lot of people still utilize the banks, and they will definitely take part in utilizing bank stable coins. So there's that. They want to kick crypto wallets down so that they can come in and offer their crypto. It's the same thing with digital wallets. They kick the digital wallets while they're down, and then the banks come in and say, hey, don't worry, in the future, we're going to be offering digital wallets. They kick the exchanges while they're down. Do you see the game that they're playing? They kick the exchanges while they're down so the banks can come in later and say, hey, later on, we'll provide crypto services. You see how many of them are trying to offer crypto services? How many large financial institutions are trying to offer crypto services? So they kick them while they're down, only to come in later and say, hey, you can get some crypto from us. That's the game that they're trying to play. They're failing at it, failing miserably at it. So let's read this little piece here. It says, quote, and just to give you an example, we at Ripple, with our flagship product, on-demand liquidity, we're literally harnessing billions of dollars of XRP liquidity to facilitate cross-border payments in a couple of seconds from, say, the US to Mexico, instead of your 2 to 3 days like in the legacy systems. And so really solving a massive pain point in this world, which is how money moves around the world. Now, here's the interesting little piece of this quote that we should all pay attention to. It says, and these are use cases that can scale into the trillions. I think the future of crypto liquidity will be shifting more towards solving real world problems as opposed to just speculation. I think we all know that, though. But he said that this can scale into the trillions. Let that settle in for a minute. Trillions. Now, I'm glad he said that. I floated an idea that Ripple could become a supervisory entity. They don't have a choice but to be that. They will control the flow of that money. They will issue updates on how you can better use on-demand liquidity and XRPL and XRapid to help with bank runs. They will be the ones to tell you if they can help you, if they can't help you. I mean, they will be in charge of so many things is what I'm saying. And there's a lot I'm leaving out, I would imagine. That they will have no choice but to be an integral part of the systems and in disseminating information that is crucial to the banking system. That means that price of XRP would explode if they're a supervisory entity, because all of these banks would have to come to them. And understand that having hundreds of banks involved in that system and utilizing that system means that even more would have to come in, because a lot of those banks they're going to be working with, especially central banks, are supervisory banks. So they have a lot of smaller banks under them that they advise and that they put rules and regulations upon and say, hey, you have to do this. Hey, you need to participate in this program. So that's going to bring other institutions later on. So it's just going to continue to increase. Now, what I was saying about XRP possibly becoming a bank in that last video, let's go a little bit further with that, because now we have this gentleman here saying that XRP could scale into the trillions, right? As far as the liquidity that it could hold or be providing. I agree with that 100%. I think it could go deep into the trillions, and I'll just leave it at that. I could go a little deeper, but I'll leave it at that. That means that price would explode, doesn't it? Okay, now back to the bank thing. How much money, total worth, let me see if I have that up here, is the Federal Reserve. Okay, the total worth of the Federal Reserve, and this is the total assets, is at $8.9 trillion. $8.9 trillion. Now, if Ripple scaled into, if XRP scaled into the trillions, that puts Ripple up there, close to that amount. XRP is considered an asset. The Federal Reserve only holds $8.9 trillion in assets. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen quickly, but over time, what are we really looking at? What are we really holding? A piece of what? Just a company, just a fintech? Or could it be more in the future? Plenty of companies like Ripple have become banks. Kraken. I believe Kraken became a bank, didn't they? Right? Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think that happened, right? It's not difficult to become a bank. If you have trillions, it only takes 10 to $12 million to establish a bank, approval from 2 regulatory bodies. That's it. It's very easy to start a bank. Now, we're talking about a company in Ripple who could possibly scale, according to its own head, to trillions of dollars. I think what we're holding, like I said before, I'm trying to give you some proof, some facts here, is much more potent and important than what people actually think when it comes to the new financial system. They will be, in my humble opinion, Ripple, if this goes the way that I'm seeing it, they will be just as important as the IMF, the Fed. Maybe not as much value locked in assets. I don't know. They may even be able to exceed that if they're working with these particular things. Like I said, far into the future, but it will happen gradually. And that means for XRP holders, that price would definitely explode. So I'm not really putting a stamp or a time on this, but $8 trillion, Bitcoin alone, the value of all Bitcoins in the world is over $1 trillion. Bitcoin itself is $1 trillion without any real use cases other than store of value. Imagine what XRP can go to. Just think about that for a minute. The Fed only holds $8 trillion in value in assets. Think about that for a moment. I mean, hey, maybe I'm wrong. A supervisory entity. This is from NDIC, just to let you know what a supervisory entity is, right? Bank supervision is a supervisory function charged with the responsibility of ensuring the safety and soundness of the banking system as a whole. Books and affairs of every licensed insured institution are examined as a means of meeting its supervision mandate. Here's three types of, the three main types of supervision are transaction-based, consolidated, and risk-based supervision. Here's the interesting part about that. I think Ripple fits into all three. That's why I said that they could be a supervisory entity. You think that they haven't thought about this? Now, maybe they don't take that route. Maybe they don't want that complication. But we're talking about a company that wants all the money. All the money. Keep that in mind. They said they want to move all the money. If they want to move all the money, there is no other way to do it than to become a supervisory entity. If they're controlling this many banks, right? They partner with them and they're subject to on-demand liquidity via Ripple. They're subject to XRapid. They're subject to Xcurrent. Think about that for a minute. If they have to come to Ripple for all of this, then that is, and be advised on how to use it as the technology updates, and they have to get updates from Ripple on on-demand liquidity. That is a supervisory entity's role. Now, let me just read a little bit about tractions-based type of supervision. It says, this supervisory approach focuses on individual group entities. Individual entities are supervised on a solo basis according to the capital requirements of their respective regulators. The transactions-based type of supervision of individual entities is complemented by a general qualitative assessment of the group as a whole and usually by a quantitative group-wide assessment of the adequacy of capital. Then there is consolidated supervision. So you tell me, the supervisory approach focuses on individual group entities. Ripple already is capable of that. Now let's go here. Consolidated supervision is a group-wide approach to supervision whereby all risks undertaken by a group of companies are taken into account in the supervisory process. RippleNet. Think about that for a minute. RippleNet. So they have this way of all the banks and financial institutions coming to Ripple, telling them what they want, telling them what they need, and Ripple saying, hey, this is what we can do. They kind of meet in the middle. That sounds like consolidated supervision, in my opinion. Unlike, and I'll say this, unlike what the European Central Bank does and the IMF does, which is tell you what to do. That's not consolidated supervision. So Ripple does that as well. They fit so many of these categories. Think about it for a moment. Then we have this here, risk-based supervision. The dynamism of the global economic environment requires more robust tools and skills to mitigate risks arising from the rapid development of the financial sector. In response to the changing financial landscape, advancement in and widespread use of information and communications technology, a more effective approach is required. Although effective risk management has always been central to safe and sound banking activities, it has assumed added importance for two main reasons. Firstly, new technologies, product innovation, size and speed of financial transactions, and have changed the nature of banking. Secondly, there is need to comply fully with the Basel core principles on supervision to prepare an enabling environment for the implementation of the new capital accord. Think about that for a minute. Like, they fit all of these categories. They will be able to respond and help those institutions respond to changing financial landscape. That's what we're doing right now. That's what the new financial system is all about. Advancement in. Who's advancing faster when it comes to bank coins than really Algorand? I have to put Algorand up there also. Algorand and Ripple. Ripple is moving at light speed, by the way. It says, and widespread use of information slash communications technology. That's Ripple. That's Ripple. Information technology, the data that they can move, the money they can move with the data together and not separated. Unbelievable. They could be a supervisory entity. What does that mean for the price of XRP? Like I said, there are going to be the floods. Then there is the tsunami. That tsunami is, in my humble opinion, it's going to be muy linda, mi gente. So I just want to bring that to your attention there. The Federal Reserve only has 12 banks. 12 banks. Ripple can be worldwide. The Federal Reserve is only operating within the United States. Ripple is worldwide. Worldwide, which is why they say all the money. We could easily have 12 banks in the United States if we're XRP, if we're Ripple, or 12 locations that we're in where we act as a supervisory entity over banks. We don't have to be a bank outright. There's ways around that, right? And you can still participate. But if they wanted to become a bank, it'd be very easy. And with just 12 Federal Reserve banks, it wouldn't be that difficult to come close to that. It wouldn't be. And Ripple has offices all around the world. They have an office in United Arab Emirates. Then they have another office. They have an office somewhere in Europe, I believe, also. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I know they just opened up an office somewhere recently. I think it was in Europe. So, no, it wasn't Europe. My apologies. I remember now. It was in India. So Ripple is worldwide. So that not only could they all open different locations that could become different branches of their supervisory nature, but they can do it worldwide. Like I said, I see Ripple possibly, I could be completely wrong on this. This is something I've been thinking about for a long time though, but I can see Ripple becoming more like a very light version or very new version of what the International Monetary Fund was supposed to be. Keep in mind, the first version of an agnostic one world currency was the SDR, but it failed. So now they just use SDRs between central banks. And even with that, the Federal Reserve, for example, the Federal Reserve only has a little bit of SDRs. We can go to their actual financials. We have their financials right here pulled up. How many SDRs does the special drawing rights certificates? So the Federal Reserve only has $196 million in SDR. So SDR is not it's not as powerful as they wanted it to be. It doesn't do as much as they needed it to be. And really, they just hold in SDRs just to participate in that particular system, which is a burden on the Federal Reserve itself. Whereas something like XRP is not a burden because, like I said, it's not it's decentralized, so anybody can use it. Anybody can build on it. So at any time that they wanted to, they could actually buy a lot of XRP just off the market, even though Ripple is very smart with holding. They're very smart to hold a ton of XRP in escrow with all of these financial institutions knowing what you could do with XRP. Because if it was me and I was a competitor, if I was a government or central bank, if you put too much XRP on the market, I wait patiently, then I buy it all up and I build on it myself. That's what I would do. But Ripple is sort of keeping them from that by having that allotment in escrow, and they were so smart to patent on-demand liquidity. That's another thing that holds them back from doing that, is because they have the patent on on-demand liquidity. So they have to have that a certain amount that they're holding back to use for on-demand liquidity, right? You don't want to rely too much on retail. You don't want to rely too much on market price and movement and value. You don't want to do that. You know, it's one of those things where you need to trust yourself more than you trust others, right? So anyway, XRP could be used, like I've stated before, as sort of a new SDR, special drawing rights, okay? SDR, like that, like between banks. That's pretty much what they're saying they want to do, is be the new SDR, correct? So while they have everybody's head looking at SWIFT, well, we can replace SWIFT, and then one minute they say they're not replacing SWIFT, then they want to work with SWIFT. They don't know what they want to do, but that's not the real goal. The real goal is to become the new SDR. The SDR is currency used between banks. Then XRP is a currency used between banks. Do you see where things could possibly be headed? They're literally telling us, but only a few people are putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Now, maybe they don't go that route. Maybe I could be completely wrong, but I think we're on to something. I mean, the future will tell, but that price of XRP definitely is going to go up. It can't do what they want to do in any of these directions without that price exploding exponentially. It can't be a low price. It just can't. It's not logical. It can't be. So here's a little bit on the Federal Reserve, just to give you a little bit more on this idea that I'm working with. It says the Federal Reserve established the Municipality Liquidity Facility. The Municipal Liquidity Facility to help state and local governments better manage cash flow pressures. Who else do we know that specializes in liquidity? But liquidity for everybody. Well, for large financial institutions. Ripple. They're so much like a central bank. They're like a little baby central bank. They're so much like a central bank. This is why the legacy system has gone against XRP. Understand that what you hold is more than just a piece in a new financial system. It is massive in its potential, in its potentiality. Huge. We are possibly holding a piece of one of the new powers of the world, which makes you and I, theoretically speaking, you and I part of that power, which if we strip all of that away, that makes you and I new power. Possibly. To better help, says, the Federal Reserve established a municipal liquidity facility to help state and local governments better manage cash flow pressures in order to continue to serve households and businesses in their communities. Now, Ripple's not doing that exactly. They're literally helping the central banks and the commercial banks. And if they take a piece of that swift market, and I believe that they will dominate in that market, then in a way, maybe I should rethink what I just said a few moments ago. Then maybe they are also able to help state and local governments and regular people as well if they utilize the system. But regular people is not so much who Ripple is concerned with. I understand that. Let Stellar have that. Algorand. There is so much here that we could talk about, everyone. Things are getting more and more interesting when it comes to XRP. Everything is looking amazing at this particular time, in my humble opinion. Let's look at the money very quickly on the Federal Reserve, okay? I have this page up here. I just want to go over this. We haven't done financials for the Fed in a long time. Let's go over the 2021. They have the 2021 and 2020 assets here. Consolidated statements of condition. And then when they put out the new one, we'll definitely go over that as well. So now if we have Algorand possibly working with the federal government, Stellar XLM working with the federal government, or Ripple XRP, then we know how much money could possibly be flowing through them. Okay, we already went over the interbank payments. We're talking about millions per transaction. We're talking about interbank payments from, between these central banks and things of that nature. But let's go over this here, right? This is from 2021 FRB Boston financial statement. So gold certificates, this is in the millions. Gold certificates, they have $335 million in gold certificates. SDRs, they have $196 million in SDRs. Let's scroll down here. Just bear with me one moment. Let's go to just total assets in that particular category. $229,433,000. Let me read that again. I think I messed that up. my apologies. $229,433,000,000. Sorry about that before. I have so much information I wanted to go over. We haven't even gone over half of it, but already this video is getting long, and I like longer videos. It allows me to convey more of what I want to say, but some people don't like watching longer videos, and to each his own, It says liabilities and capital. Federal Reserve notes outstanding 72,969,000,000. Deposits. Okay, deposits. $103,751,000,000. If we're working in any capacity with the Fed, that is a lot of money. That's what I'm trying to convey here. But I'm giving you the actual numbers. If you want to go over these numbers yourself, you can. I don't know if I posted this in the members only section, but I will be. I'm going to check, and I will be posting this link there so you can check this document out yourself. Okay. Let's see here. Total reserve bank capital and consolidated variable entity non-controlling interest, total liabilities and capital. $229,433,000,000. So we have another article here. It's titled "Former Developer Advocate at Ripple Explains Why XRP Has Stayed in the Top 10." It says, here's his quote. He released this in a tweet. This is from Matt Hamilton. And it says, "The reason that XRP has stayed in the top 10 is because it works. It does what it says on the 10. The XRP ledger is still the best blockchain for payments and transferring value around. It is decentralized, secure, fast, cheap, scalable, well-tested, and stood the test of time." I 100% agree. I agree. And I think that the holders of XRP know that. That's why it remains in the top 10. We know what it can do. We're long holding it. We understand that it takes time to set up these infrastructures and work with these central banks. They have their timelines, 3 to 5 years. Some of them are saying 4 years. So we know it's going to take a little bit of time to get these things off the ground. We also understand that it's not all going to happen all at once. I know it's fun to think about, and a lot of people do believe that. To each his own. If that's what you believe, I can completely respect that. If you believe that it's just going to take off like a rocket, I think that's very fun to think about. But in my humble opinion, it will happen in waves, okay, in levels, in degrees. That's how I feel. And you'll get a couple of floods depending on who you're working with. Let's say large financial institutions, commercial banks, and then later on, central banks, okay? So I think that's how it will occur. But people know that, and so they're willing to continue to hold XRP or be involved. Some people sell their XRP. When it goes lower, they buy back in. So it always holds its position, so to speak, because it has belief in it. The people are backing it up. Whoever's buying it, whether it's institutions or retail, people are buying XRP and holding XRP because they know the potential, especially the whales. The whales have been slowly accumulating XRP. We keep seeing articles about that because they understand where it's going to go. And the smart money gets a long hold, they put it on their cold wallet, and they just forget about it. They come back when they hear the catalyst, when the catalyst goes off, and they collect their gains. Okay, so now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, let's get to the money.